I'm not ever perpetuating continuing to lie. I think God was even sovereign over that, because I think that maybe hearing it all at once would have been too much for Stacey. And he gave her that week to begin getting support in place so that when the final bomb dropped, she had, I think, even greater capacity than those first 6 days. I don't know if you feel that way about it.
I had a moment of just like, God, either everything I've learned from becoming a Christian at 5 years old is not true, because I never thought this would be the story that I would get. This is not what I think I heard growing up. Or somehow, some way, you have a plan.
Welcome to What We Really Want, conversations about connection. Settle in and get ready for a great conversation. Let's talk about what we really want.
Hey everybody, welcome back to What We Really Want. Today is episode 73. Last week you heard Who's Asking the Questions Now, part 1, which was Phil Herndon's conversation with Stacey. A while back, we had the opportunity to go to Nashville to have 3 different episodes recorded for the Return to Heart podcast from Tin Man Ministries. We want to make sure that you get a chance to hear that. And so last week we put up Phil's conversation with Stacey. Today is his conversation with the two of us. Hun, it's been now probably going on 5 or 6 months since we drove to Murfreesboro and recorded these conversations. But what do you remember about that?
I remember that I was a little nervous to talk to Phil by myself. Not anything about Phil. He's wonderful. But just like, just me? Because I feed off of things that you say a lot of times. Like you'll you'll say something and it'll make me think of something.
You didn't seem to have a lot of trouble.
I didn't have any trouble. I never do. I don't know why I worry about these things, because I always say, I don't know what I'm going to say on this one. I don't know. I don't need much prompting. And the words just come out. They're not always great, but it was fun. I enjoyed it. And it hit me when, I guess when they released it and I was listening, I was like, when we were doing the recording, I didn't think about the fact that Phil is a therapist. And I was like,
that sounds like a compliment.
Yeah, he was amazing. And I was like, I am getting therapy in this interview. I love this. Just some of the things he affirmed. Yeah. I guess that I was like, oh, yeah, he's a therapist. So that's good. So I don't know if that sounds prideful. I don't mean it to be at all, but it was just really cool.
Yeah, it's just gross.
It was just
It's gross.
It was a conversation. It was comfortable. It was kind. He was so kind, and I just really appreciated it.
Well, and the one you're about to hear was Phil's conversation with the two of us, which actually I think, if I remember right, was the first one that we recorded.
I think so, yeah.
For those of you who are well familiar with our story, this is just going to be another opportunity for you to hear it.
Yeah, you can not listen if you want to.
Well, I'd still like him to listen.
Okay.
At least download it.
I give you permission to say, I've heard this story. But you haven't heard us talk about it.
With Phil.
Yeah. So I think it's definitely worth it.
Every time we tell and retell our stories, I think we glean something new from it. And so you might as well. But this is Stacey kind of sharing what the stuff that we walked through was like for her, how it affected her. For me, what was going on in the midst of all of that and kind of what the before, during, and after has been like. And so for other people who are walking through this, either it's not out in the open yet, or it is, and you're not sure where it's going. We just hope that this will be an encouragement about what can happen, what God can do when people surrender to a process that he puts in front of us. And I don't say that to pat us on the back, because the process was excruciating at times. We fought it kicking and screaming sometimes. But, ultimately now this blew up at the beginning of 2009. Here it is, 2026. We are where we are, largely because of this process that God put in front of us. And it's the same thing that he offers to everyone who's going through sexual brokenness, or really anything else in life that causes trauma and distress. And so we hope that you will be encouraged, challenged, inspired, whatever you need out of this episode. It's number 73. It's called...
I have something to say.
You have something to say? Okay. I was ready to wrap it up.
I know. Something that I said to my support group recently, it's hard to stay married. It has been hard to stay married. It is hard to continue growing. So just for whatever that's worth, yes, we share our story and God has done amazing things, and I'm very thankful. But it's also hard.
Yeah. Y'all, this is episode 73. It is Phil Herndon interviewing us. It's called Who's Asking the Questions Now, Part 2. And the replay of that conversation we had with Phil starts right now.
We are thrilled you're here with us today. We have a special episode today. My dear friends Greg and Stacey Oliver are here today. They operate Awaken, a recovery ministry based down there in Birmingham, and we are thrilled to have both of you. It is so fun to be together. Finally, we podcasted together. A year or so
almost 2 years ago.
Oh.
Yeah, we love hanging out. You were on episode 4 of our podcast, and it's our most listened to episode.
I'm sorry, say that again.
It's our most listened to episode.
Well, I have no idea how that's true, but I believe it. So that's great. It's been fun to do that. So we share, at least part of our work is dealing with people who have fallen into sexual addiction, sexual sin, pornography, and the whole gamut. So this is sadly, and I guess gladly for our work, a really common subject. And so there's all kinds of stuff out there. So we just wanted to sit down with you two as a couple and talk about, obviously, when that has hit a home or hit a relationship, it's a big deal. Yeah. It's devastating. So I just wanted to turn you two loose to kind of, let's just start the conversation around, tell maybe even part of your story about how that's affected you.
Yeah. You want me to go first or you want to go first?
You can go first.
Well, coming in here, we were talking about this a little bit on the way up, just kind of speculating how the conversation might go. But we're sitting here on about 34 and a half years of marriage, not quite, about 34 years. And the first 17, there were a lot of things that were good and a lot of things that felt like, man, they should be better. Stacey didn't understand a lot of what was going on that was keeping them from being what they could be. A lot of it had to do with my secrets and lies and things that I was hiding, because I brought a sexual addiction into our marriage, thinking, as most people do, that getting married is going to be the remedy for unwanted sexual behavior. I mean, I think that's the most commonly believed falsehood about sexual addiction.
Yeah,
probably the second only to that is that it's actually about sex.
I think you're right on both counts.
Yeah, sex is the strategy that I adopted to try to get a need met. That was a good need, but that wasn't ever going to be the ultimate meeting of it. And so, we met in Bible college in 1989 in Birmingham. I had grown up in a very, very conservative church in Huntsville, Alabama, and Stacey will probably tell more about her growing up on the mission field. And so not a whole lot of exposure to knowing how to process the world around us, very much growing up in a bubble and unprepared for life and unprepared for marriage. And, I know we would say both of us had. I can speak to my strategies that I developed to try to make life work. And I just thought that as long as I have a partner and as long as I have a good sex life, then anything else that comes around, I'm going to be able to manage. Wouldn't have given those words to it, but that was kind of my functional way that I kind of walked through life. And I was preparing for full-time vocational ministry because I was training to be a worship pastor, which is something that I did for about 15 years. And there's a line in one of the Star Wars movies where Luke Skywalker says, that's wild. Every word in that sentence was wrong. It's like everything that I was thinking was the issue, the problem, and the solution was wrong.
Yes.
And so going into marriage, finishing up a degree in music and theology, and then getting into full-time ministry, it's like I was completely unprepared for the escalating stresses of life. And I know I'm kind of all over the place, but one of the things I have come to realize was the biggest contributors to what became my addiction and then, a deepening addiction was the inability to healthily process and manage stress. Yeah. The expectations and the image and the way I thought things were supposed to be. And whenever I didn't feel like I was measuring up, I would just run to the thing that would numb that out and make those feelings go away. Yeah. And as any addiction goes, the more you do it, the more you have to do it because, the tolerance and threshold rise, the law of diminishing returns kicks in. And, what used to make me feel like my needs were being satisfied didn't do it anymore.
Yes.
And so over the years, those first 17 years of our marriage, one line after another just kept getting crossed. And things that I said, well, I know it's not good that I'm doing this, but at least I'm not doing this. Yeah. Well, now I was doing this. Yeah. Well, at least I'm not doing this. And then one after another, those boxes just got ticked off. And now I've stepped over so many lines and done so many things that my marriage will be destroyed. My family will be destroyed. My ministry will be over. So, of course, nobody can know. And that just was life until, at the age of 38 and a half, God blew it up, and which felt pretty horrific and traumatic, but was the kindest thing he could have done in early 2009. I was exposed. I didn't voluntarily disclose, and it was terrible. And it was the way it had to happen for things to start to change.
That's part of the miracle of recovery, isn't it? My worst day is my best day.
Right.
It really is that way. You kicked off, Greg, talking a little bit about growing up in Huntsville, strict conservative family, and some of the ideas you had about life, about marriage, about sex, about satisfaction, about contentment, that kind of thing. So I want to ask you, Stacey, your version of Greg kind of talked about, okay, this is the Greg that entered marriage with Stacey. So how about the Stacey that entered marriage with Greg?
Yeah.
We'll be right back.
How have things gotten so out of control? How did something that didn't seem like such a big deal at first completely take over? Porn and sex addiction are destroying your life and killing your relationships. You know you can't keep going on like this, keeping secrets and telling lies. Something has to change. But how? Most men who struggle with unwanted or addictive sexual behavior have tried to fix it on their own. But sex addiction is powerful and complicated. Recovery is possible, but it isn't easy. It requires us to focus on more than just behavior. It requires us to look at our whole lives and the parts of our stories that contribute to addiction. If you're ready to find freedom, maybe it's time for you to get to the roots. The Roots Retreat is a 4-day therapeutic and spiritual intensive. You'll work with therapists and coaches who specialize in sex addiction and recovery. You'll learn how to take healthy ownership of your behavior. You'll discover how your life experiences set the stage for addiction to develop. You'll see how God factors into your struggle, and you'll learn effective tools for ongoing recovery after the retreat. If you're ready to stop trying what doesn't work, if you're ready to experience real hope, healing, and change, let's get to the roots.
Visit awakenrecovery.com/Roots Retreat or click the Roots Retreat link in show notes.
Pretty similar, interestingly enough. I was in Africa growing up, West Africa. I was 9 when we moved there, and very similar, totally different environments, but the strictness, all the rules and all of that. I would say I had an incredible biblical foundation. I had incredible Bible teachers and went to a missionary kids school. But I guess the emphasis on the rules was probably what had me thinking like I have to do the good and not the bad. It was just such a focus on that. And I think I also learned from a young age, like I'm a introvert and I'm not going to go out making waves, and I will follow the loud people. And I saw people get in trouble, and I didn't want to get in trouble. So I learned at a young age to just be good. And I did it really well. I was a really good kid. I didn't get in trouble. I mean, I wasn't perfect, of course, and I got grounded for various things. But, I generally followed the rules. I think I just wanted to grow up and get married and be a mom, have a family. So came back to the States after graduating high school and went to Bible college and had just much of the same as far as the strictness and the rules. But again, I'll obey those rules until I met Greg. No.
Did away with that.
Bad influence.
Yeah, bad influence. We met initially, weren't that fond of each other because I thought he was kind of wild. He danced at a Christian concert.
Greg. Oh, my goodness. What in the world? I didn't know that about him. I thought we were friends, Greg.
Yeah. The artist invited people to come up and they were, it was a Christian concert and they were not doing anything bad. But I was like, dancing. And his hair, well, I guess your hair couldn't have been too long because it was Bible college. But I was like,
there was still a little mullet left. It was the 80s.
He just had this wild vibe. And I'm like, he's just not serious for the Lord. And of course, he's thinking about me as, goody. And I didn't mean to be, but I was. I just was. So, but we started talking. I don't know. There was one conversation we were having about a hard thing you were going through, a hard thing I was going through, and we just really gelled and enjoyed talking. And it was easy, and started talking about dating. And then I don't know how I even told you like my criteria for dating, but one of them was that you don't date anybody you couldn't marry. And I knew that he wasn't training to be a missionary. So I'm like, I can't date you because you're not going to be a missionary, and I'm going to be a missionary. And I didn't feel a call from the Lord. I don't think that it was that spiritual. It's just what I knew. And so we had to have that conversation for a while. Finally found a loophole. He said he'd be willing to go if God made it clear that was what he wanted him to do. And I said, oh, okay, well, as long as you're willing, that'll work.
Got the box checked. Thank goodness. Yeah.
So we started dating. And, I think in different ways, I wasn't thinking about sex and the things like you were, like marriage would fix it and all of that. I just had this idea that when we got married, we would just have this great ministry life. We would be in full-time Christian ministry, which is what I grew up with, so felt comfortable. I will say, we were physical in our dating and engagement very much and too much, and there was all the guilt, all the shame, because I had not even kissed a boy before Greg. So thinking, though, that, and I guess in that way, I was thinking as soon as we get married, it'll all be fine and we won't have to feel guilty. And, your body doesn't just make that connection that on this day it's a sin, and on this day after saying some words,
right? Yeah.
Very important words, but that it's all going to be beautiful. And nobody talked to me. Nobody. It was just, don't do it. Don't be alone with a boy. Don't do anything physical with the boy before you're married. And there's nothing about it being good and beautiful and playful and all the things that it is God designed it to be. There was just none of that. And so honeymoon was not great. We would both say that. And so it just started, I think, I know for you, just kind of feeding.
It was supposed to be the apex, and it wasn't what the impossible thing I built it up to be.
So I think, I will say, not knowing anything that he was struggling with, I didn't know anything that was going on with him. We were best friends by the time we got married, I think. So we have this great solid foundation, which I think is part of how we're still sitting here today together. But I think we had a good marriage. It just, at some point along the way, I was like, is this like it? It just seems kind of, seem like roommates. We get along pretty well. We don't really fight that much. When we do, it can get pretty heated. But I just had no idea what the struggles were. Yeah. So.
Boy, and that is, you are describing, as you two well know, this is an oxymoronic way to say it, but you are describing a perfect storm for how sex addiction just becomes pervasive in a relationship. Good boy in terms of upbringing and Bible college, mullet notwithstanding, dancing at the concert notwithstanding, good girl, missionary kid, having all these thoughts, and you, Greg, having a secret life, calling card of addiction, a secret life. And Stacey said you said very matter-of-factly a while ago, like, well, gosh, I didn't know what was going on. So I'm just thinking, like, man, y'all are describing how it almost always happens in this type scenario.
Yeah. Variations on a theme.
Yeah.
So tell me, Greg, a little bit, what is it that you brought in? You talked about your thinking about things, and man, you're right. How would you like to have $1 for every time you've heard someone say, gosh, I thought getting married would fix all this? And that, man.
I have a lot of dollars. Lot.
It makes sense on a logical side of things, because I think, man, sex, acting out sexually really brings satisfaction.
Yeah.
What I don't know, it's a dopamine surge and an oxytocin dump and all these things that happen in the brain. My brain is getting wired more and more, increased tolerance, as you said earlier, Greg. And so I just think, oh, well, this is easy math. I think, Stacey's really pretty and I want to marry her. And so when that happens, then the math works.
Well, I think that for me, it was this formula of, okay, what I'm doing now is the counterfeit. And so, yeah, it's giving me something, but what I need is the real thing. Mm-hmm. And what I thought was the real thing was sex with my wife.
Yeah.
But sex with my wife shifted over and became a better counterfeit.
Yes.
Because the real thing was actual intimacy and vulnerability and the connection that is supposed to lead to great, healthy, connected sex. Mm-hmm. But I had no framework for seeing that.
Yes.
And so I wasn't completely off. It's just that I had mislabeled the pieces of the puzzle, right? Mm-hmm. So I knew that going from a counterfeit to the real thing was what I wanted, but I had misidentified what the real thing was.
Yeah.
And I mean, honestly, I didn't get the kind of clarity I feel like I have even on that now until probably years into recovery, because it's just an ever evolving deepening of understanding that is one of the greatest blessings and gifts and benefits of having this secret out in the light so that you can really move in a growing and healthy direction.
Mm-hmm. So you two we've talked so far about, here's the story, Stacey, you brought into this marriage, good girl, missionary kid. Greg, you brought in your version of that story.
Good Christian boy, yeah.
And a good Christian boy harboring a secret.
Yep.
With all this kind of logic that says, well, marrying her will all make sense. And so these two people are married. It's going, Stacey, you said a sad statement that's very common too, like, things were okay. We're going along. Yeah. Not terrible. Hey, we fought and it was pretty bad. But then, we did that awkward dance and somehow it got better. We just kept going. So what happened that on your worst and best day?
Well, when that worst, best day rolled around, my acting out behavior had escalated to what we call crossing the flesh barrier several years prior. And, porn wasn't doing it for me anymore. Fantasy wasn't doing it for me anymore. And so I'd had to escalate to anonymous sexual hookups with people I didn't even know. And there was an email that I actually sent to an acting out partner. And instead of from the dummy account that I had created, I sent it from my church email account, which used my real name. I used a fake name when I acted out. And so it was like, holy, you know what? This is out of my control now. And I was a little bit of just que sera, sera, like, okay, I'm either going to get caught or I'm not. And several days passed and nothing happened. And then just through a series of events, I came to understand that information had been taken to the people I worked underneath at the church, and it was all about to come out. And so I immediately went into addict mode. How can I control this damage? How can I keep it from being just this earth-destroying, meteor? And so I decided, I did some simple math in my head, and to an addict brain, it made sense. I was going to admit to the minimum I thought I had to get the consequence, but not so much that it would devastate Stacey. And I mean, I'm like doing all of these calculations, and that lasted for about 6 days. Was trying to continue to keep a secret and just say, I'll go to therapy. I mean, I'll lose my job. I'll go to therapy. I'll privately apply the stuff that nobody needs to know about, and it'll be fine, control the damage.
That's a knowing chuckle there, Stacey.
Yeah, that sounds like a good plan.
and a question that came up a lot during those 6 days was, if God was going to reveal any of it, why would he not reveal all of it? Well, that statement was the question was first being asked by people who believed that I was being honest, that it was all out, but it wasn't all out. And so eventually God just wore me down and I felt like I was dying. So 6 days after the first phase, the first wave of the crater, came the second, and everything came out. Wow. And I think that, I'm not ever perpetuating continuing to lie, but even when I'm doing things sinfully and clunky and addict driven, I think God was even sovereign over that, because I think that maybe hearing it all at once would have been too much for Stacey. And he gave her that week to begin getting support in place so that when the final bomb dropped, she had, I think, even greater capacity than those first 6 days. I don't know if you feel that way about it, but it was awful. Yeah. But at the same time, it was like, okay, it's out and we know what we're dealing with now.
I wouldn't want to say that, yes, I agree with that in the sense that that's the way people should do it who are listening, because that's not the way to do it. But I do remember when the week later that everything was out, I told him, well, you really didn't say anything. It was a look like, okay, because I was asking specific questions. And I said, you have already devastated me. We've lost everything in my brain. It was, the job. And it's not going to be that much worse if you just admit this. We cannot move forward. We can't heal, something to that effect, if you're not telling the truth. So I knew everything was out. And I didn't feel, at least in that moment, like way worse. It was almost like, okay.
Your fall apart came later.
Yeah. And honestly, I did fall apart later and get her real mad. Found all the cuss words. I had found some probably that first week, but I feel like I got in touch with a lot of them. But our therapist, I called her. It was 10 o'clock at night, bless her heart. I called her because this was unfolding and asked her, like, what do we do next? So we, go see her, but had to get blood work done. And I'm like, that never crossed my mind, even when I had all the information.
Or mine either. And then it just all hit. And it's like, my God, what have I done?
Yeah, that's just really, really bad.
Yeah.
So that felt honestly worse. Just that reality. Like, I don't know. That's what was in my brain. Like, I couldn't even form a sentence. Like, missionary kid, Bible college, full-time Christian ministry. We have 3 kids, 14, 10, and 7. I don't even know how we got here, But it was, people don't like it when I say this, I don't think. But, like, for me, too, I know I would never want my life to change and me to be healing in a different way because of this. But it was a turning point for me as well, because I didn't have this secret addiction that I was hiding. But I told Greg over the years, like, I have so many friends at church and I'm so lonely because I don't think I was just exhausting myself to do things for people so that they would like me.
Yeah.
Being the good one, continuing that I had done my whole life. And I was kind of in a way miserable, but I didn't have words for it. I didn't know that that's what was happening. And so I think this just God, like you said, it was a kindness and said, this isn't going to continue this way anymore. We're going to, do something here. So I had a moment though I think the day that it blew up of just like, I was sitting by myself in an office the pastors were talking to him. And I'm like, God, either everything I've learned from becoming a Christian at 5 years old is not true, because I never thought this would be the story that I would get. This is not what I think I heard growing up. Or somehow, some way, you have a plan. And I didn't know anything other than keep following Jesus. So I don't know what that was going to look like, but I was just like, okay, see what you have. And it was like, I say this all the time. I felt almost like a physical, like he put a blanket around me and was like, you're going to be okay.
Wow.
I didn't know if that meant we would be okay, but like, this has been my greatest fear since we met.
Yeah.
Is that he would do something. And he never carried himself in a way that would make me think that he would do this. It wasn't even that. It was just, I think, my insecurities and just all kinds of things this was my biggest fear. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, it's happened. And somehow I'm still breathing.
Right.
And I still like him, but I'm real mad.
Yeah, Stacey, I've said it before, and I've had people come back and say it to me. I've told people who are in your spot, really, Greg, and yours too, on D-Day, I've said, hey, I just want you to do one thing. Just breathe. Just take the next breath. And you just literally sat and said, hey, I just intuitively knew at this point, I'm just going to take the next breath. Yeah. Then the next one. That's so, you're just describing such trauma. So she's in one room breathing about all she can manage at the time.
I'm in another room lying
because this is still, yes.
So pick up the story. What's happening in the other room, Greg?
I mean, the other room is I am looking at 2 of the people that I worked with, that I reported to, and they are giving me every opportunity. They're saying, is there more? Like, this is the time. Let's just get it all out. And in my brain, I'm thinking, okay, if it's up and to the left, does that mean you're lying or telling the truth? Like, where do my eyes need to be? Like, full on self-protection. Wow. And like, I've committed to this path forward. I'm going to say no. Like if this is what I had done and this is what they knew about, this was what I was going to admit to. Mm-hmm. And that was the plan. And I was sticking to the plan. And I don't think they believed me, but they couldn't prove anything differently. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, I'm going to lose my job anyway. So let's just minimize the damage. Little side note. People who have struggled with an addiction are probably going to understand this. It's a little harder to understand if you haven't been directly touched by addiction, but all of the things I was doing, cheating on my wife, bringing this, this relationship with pornography, masturbation into my marriage that escalated way beyond that. Mm-hmm. At no point did I not love my wife.
Yeah.
And at no point did I want to hurt my wife.
Yeah.
And really at no point did I believe in my heart that anything wrong with her was driving what I was doing. Mm-hmm. It was this compartmentalized thing. I was doing this horrible, painful, deceitful betrayal, and I didn't want her to know because of how much it would hurt her. Mm-hmm. It's insanity. Mm-hmm. We say addiction is insanity.
I wasn't real gracious when he tried to explain that to me early on.
I probably wasn't the one to explain it.
Thank you, honey. That makes all the sense in the world. Okay, we're good.
Yeah. And so, after everything else came out, I was lying still. And a lot of relationships were broken because of what I had done. And then, there was some continuing brokenness subsequent to that because of decisions that some other people in the process made that came out of their broken trust of me. And it was very hurtful. And, I had served them up this steaming pile and they didn't know what to do with it because in 2009, almost no church knew what to do with sexual addiction, much less when one of your pastors is the one who has it. And so it was just a mess. But after that, in the midst of it, we were finding a lot of clarity because we got with a wonderful therapist who helped us understand that I wasn't a freak, that she didn't have some broken picker. There was a lot more, complex than that. But the main thing is there's hope. This all makes sense. Yeah. When you look at your backstory and the things the beliefs that developed out of that, all this makes sense. Mm-hmm. And there's so much hope in that. Mm-hmm. And so in the midst of our church life falling apart, and a lot of relationships going away, there were other relationships that God was bringing into our lives, mostly with people who had walked through the same thing that we were walking through. And so now there's this big unfolding piece called community. And it has been the greatest gift really that God has given us through all of this. Wow. I don't think that our marriage could be where it is now without our community.
Yeah, man.
And so, we found people who had walked through it who said, this is what it was like when it happened to me. I'm like, wow, you sound just as screwed up as I am, which is really strangely comforting.
Yes.
And I found a meeting that I could go to. There really weren't very many meetings for partners, but one kind of formed while we were walking through it. And then over the years, turned into what we're doing now. That's a very, truncated version of it. But us finding out that having people to walk alongside while we're having this discovery and this healing and this growing, it's absolutely irreplaceable.
Yes. Yes. That's beautiful, guys. I want you to, if you would, both of you, as we kind of start wrapping up a little bit here, Greg, you said something so important, how addiction thrives in isolation and denial and avoidance and minimization, lying, and all the things we've talked about today. But you said the word hope. And so we often, clinically speaking, will line this up as there's the problem, there's the solution, and there's hope. And so if you two would take as long as you would like, both of you, Greg and Stacey, what would you say to people listening? And sadly, and if couples are in this situation, I'm glad they're listening to this. And so for those couples out there who are somewhere along the continuum of where you two have been, maybe they're back in 2000, was it 2000, back in 2009, or maybe they're currently where you are. What would you want to share with couples who are walking where y'all have walked?
Well, I recently, or I'm currently talking with several women. One specifically is a relapse situation, and one is just heard, full disclosure, so much more than she had any idea. And I was asked, can he ever tell the truth? I don't know. I don't know how we can get through this. And can I ever get to where I don't want to just send him packing,
Yes.
And I mean, the answer is yes, he can learn to tell the truth. And yes, you can get to a point where you are reconciled, but it takes two people committed to the process. We call it the P word in the partner side of the street. We don't like the process. It takes too long. We want to just be done, and we don't want to be triggered or all the stuff that comes with it. But I think, knowing that, you say it all the time, Greg, it took this many years to get to this place.
Yeah.
You are not going to crawl out of this in a couple months. And so when our therapist said 3 to 5, I said, how long is this going to take? Because I'm thinking of him to get fixed, She's like 3 to 5 years. And I think I cussed. Like, what the actual are you talking about?
I'm pretty sure you did, Stacey.
No, I'm sure I did. But it's not 3 to 5 years of the day one. It's not like that. It's a roller coaster.
Yeah.
And so I say, it's a long process, but there's healing. Whether you stay married or not, you can. I have one friend in particular, walked with her, and it ended in divorce. And she is living a beautiful, healed, also sad at how things went, but she's just beautiful and loves Jesus. And I just love that. I hate that the relationship went the way it went, but like seeing God heal her in the midst. I mean, not healed, 100%, as we won't be until we see Jesus. But yeah, did I answer the question?
You did. You're beautifully saying it, Stacey. It's like, the neuroscience people call it limbic revision. It just takes a while for the filter to change. And there's wisdom in, you and I are going to talk later in another episode about this more, Stacey, but it just takes time for the filter. Not only did it grow slowly, Greg, like you say, over time, but it also changes again over time. And I think that's such an important thing on both, quote, sides of this, but certainly as the partner side, I think that's one of the most important things that anyone could say or know. Like, it's going to vacillate, and you're going to have cussing days and rejoicing days.
That's right.
And a lot of times those are the same day.
Some of the same day, same hour, same minute. So I just think that's very important. I'm so glad you kind of double clicked on that, people.
Yeah.
When you ask about the question about hope, the thought that popped into my head, and I want to I haven't developed it, but this is what I want to talk about. I think that for hope to be able to stay for a recovering person, it really can't be tied to a particular outcome.
Yeah.
Like, hope that my marriage will survive, well, that's contingent. Like, in that saying, if my marriage doesn't survive, then I'm done.
Yeah.
It's one thing to want your marriage to survive, to want it to become the marriage that you always knew it could be. And that is a beautiful desire. But if it's the only outcome in which I can be okay, then it can easily become an idol. And what I'm unintentionally communicating is that I don't believe that there's a power greater than myself who can restore me to sanity, and that I am willing to give, my will and my life over to his care, because I don't really trust him to be enough.
Yeah.
Now, that sounds harsh as I'm saying it. Don't intend for it to sound harsh, because of course we feel that way.
You bet.
We have been living, and I say we because I'm a recovering addict. We have been living in such a way for so long to where if it is to be, it's up to me. I live like an orphan, and I've got to meet my own needs. And I'll say that God can be trusted, but I don't function that way because I've learned how to I can't take the chance of waiting on what that would look like, because what if it's bad? And so the hope that even if I don't get the thing that I want, that I can be okay.
Yeah.
That it's better that this is out than before it was out. And sometimes I just have to say to people who are kind of in the square one spot, it's okay if you don't trust me. but it's good that it's out.
Yeah.
Because the way you were living was unsustainable. And now there's hope that things can be different. And sometimes it's got to start with that little nugget. What if it was possible that life could get better?
Yeah.
You have to believe that it could before you believe that it will. Like I was just quoting a couple of the 12 steps, and, step 1 is that my life is unmanageable. What I've been trying isn't working. Yeah. Step 2 is that I came to believe that there is a power greater than me. I call him Jesus, who can restore me to sanity. And step 3 is making a decision to turn my will and my life over to his care. And there's an old AA saying about step 2 is, first you come, just show up. Then you come to, which is the realization. And then you come to believe. And so if all they can have in terms of hope is, if there's a chance that life could be better than it has been, is it worth walking down that road? And take that first step and thank God you took that first step. Now take the next step.
Yes.
So things can be better. God doesn't want you to live like this. You were created not just to have eternal life so that when you die in this miserable, addictive existence, at least you get to go to heaven. We were meant to have eternal life, but we were also meant to have abundant life. And that's the part that so many of us are missing, because of the strategies and because of the lies that we believe. So as far as a hopeful message, what if it could be different?
Yes.
And then if they take that first step, I think they start to realize often that it can be. And then they start to realize it.
Yes. That's a great word. Thank you for that, both of you. So as God would have it, you're talking about people in a free fall, oh no, now what? And contingency planning, and it's all up to me and those other things. And then what you're asking people and challenging people to do is to just take the step to come so they can come to believe. And God has granted the two of you a ministry that catches people that do that. So how's the best way for folks to get in touch with y'all?
Yeah. awakenrecovery.com.
Okay.
And if you are a man who struggles with unwanted or addictive sexual behavior, a woman who is in a relationship with one of these men, or even a woman who struggles, because that is a gap that's rapidly closing.
Yes.
I'll just be honest, that has been the hardest community for us to develop, because a lot of women have such deeper levels of shame with having what they still believe is a man's problem that they don't really reach out. But we actually have some help, but we also have some places that we can refer people to that are doing that more effectively than we are. awakenrecovery.com. We have recovery meetings every week, multiple meetings for men. We have a virtual meeting for women, for partners who are, no matter where you live, you can be a part of that. 3 weekly virtual meetings for men. And so, you can find out about how you can get that community piece going. But we also offer intensives and workshops, as I know that Tin Man does as well, for people to get some of these dots connected. We'll refer people to therapists that can help, therapists, coaches, counselors that can help them in this. And then we have a really soft spot for walking alongside ministry leaders, because if I hear one thing most consistently from church leaders, it is, nobody taught me how to do this in seminary or Bible college. And so because I had a foot in both worlds as an addict and as a pastor, I can help people understand when somebody shows up in your office and they're presenting this way, all you know is what they're letting you see. There's so much more going on under the surface. And so we do cohort groups for ministry leaders who want to have a deeper understanding so that they're actually helping more and not inadvertently hurting in situations that are already really bad. So no matter if you're a person who needs that kind of community and help yourself, or if you're in a helping profession and you just want to get better at it by rubbing shoulders with people who do similar work to you, awakenrecovery.com is a good way to find out.
That's fantastic, man. Love having you as friends. Love having you as guests. Thanks for coming today.
Thank you.
This has been great, Phil.
Enjoyed the time very much.
We'd love to hear from you. If you have questions, feedback, topics you'd like to hear us talk about on the show, click the Send Us a Message link in the show notes of any episode.